What was a slavey in the Victorian era? This harsh name for a job reflects the hard work that it was, for a slavey was a female in domestic service, often kitchen maids or cleaners. Young pauper girls were discharged from the workhouse at a mere 14 years of age and had to find a means to survive. They could be recruited as slaveys and paid little to wash floors, clothes, and cook food, or they could enter directly into service, often escaping the drudgery of a poor life and ill treatment at the hands of an alcoholic parent. In either case, slaveys were young, poorly paid, and often worked at physically demanding tasks from dawn to dusk. These young girls found themselves toiling daily with menial jobs in a strange and unfamiliar environment, with strict rules and, sometimes, harsh treatment. Many, used to the company of siblings, became isolated and depressed. But worst of all, mistreatment could mean physical abuse or sexual assault. There was little protection against exploitation from either the law or society in general. To get away from a bad house risked unemployment and destitution, especially when in trouble, which meant being pregnant and unmarried. Towards the end of the 19th century, associations had been established by wealthy upper-class women to support poor young girls in the capital and prevent them from becoming prostitutes, criminals, or alcoholics, by assisting with housing, employment, and, importantly, visiting them to ensure satisfactory working conditions. In this video, you will hear an account of slaveys from the 1880s by a commission into female labour in London. Learn about the difficult upbringing of these young girls, the harsh conditions and hard work they found themselves doing at such a young age, and how there were people fighting to keep them out of danger and improve their wretched lives. Before we move on, please consider clicking the subscribe button for more content like this. If you find this video interesting, I would really appreciate it if you could give it a thumbs up and share it widely with friends and family. Please check out the description to see how you can support the channel and the content we make. Half of the 3.5 million of women and girls engaged in industrial employment throughout the United Kingdom are in domestic service. How many of these domestics are slaveys, it is impossible to say. By a slavey, we mean a child servant, a Maria, Jane, or Susan, who drudges from morning till night in some house where only one servant is kept. Of course, we are speaking here of metropolitan slaveys. Those, for instance, who come under the notice of societies like the MABYS. How many slaveys there are in London is impossible to say, but the MABYS, Metropolitan Association for Befriending Young Servants, has under its care at least 8,000 slaveys, and other societies, such as the Girls' Friendly Society, the Young Women's Christian Association, the Girls' Helpful Society, etc., etc., have the names of many girls on their books. Independent of these societies, our commissioners have visited the girls in their homes and their situations. They have even made the experiment of placing a slavey in a gentleman's house, in order to see for themselves what can be made of a child servant under the most favourable circumstances. Of slaveys, there are destitute and friendless girls who are handed over to the association when discharged from the pauper schools. They are friendless and homeless after they leave school. The other class consists of local girls who apply to the various branches of the association for situations. Our commissioners report the case of a pauper girl whose history we give by way of illustration. This girl was fetched from the workhouse by a lady and kept for half a year as a slavey. Then the lady gave up her house, sold her furniture, and went abroad. She put an advertisement in a paper before she went to find the girl a place. This was answered by a lady at St. John's Wood. The girl was sent there with her box. It was a bad house. The girl got away with difficulty. She applied for a situation at a hotel where servants are taken without characters. When the proprietor heard that she was in trouble, he dismissed her at a moment's notice. She then went to the hospital. There a young doctor took pity on her. He gave her money to find a lodging, and put her into communication with a lady who is interested in such cases. This lady found the girl in a house near Baker Street, and wrote to her former mistress. The mistress was horrified when she heard what had taken place, and sent money to help the girl through her difficulties. But she did not seem to see that her negligence had brought about the mischief, or to realize that a workhouse girl is one of the most friendless creatures on the face of the earth, if the maids does not happen to make her acquaintance. A commissioner reports the following case, which came under her notice last December. She was walking through Onslow Gardens at 5 p.m. one evening. There she saw a girl crying on the doorstep. This girl had been dismissed from a small home for striking a companion, and had been turned out into the street with a shilling and the address of a convent at Shepherd's Bush. The commissioner took the girl back to the home and begged the superintendent to receive her for the night, as it was getting dark. The superintendent refused, although the girl was a stranger in London and did not know her way to the Metropolitan Railway. The commissioner then went with the girl to the clergyman of the parish, who handed her over to the workhouse authorities. Our commissioners report a little servant in South Hackney who was taken to the National Gallery and then to a house in Chelsea. When the child reached the National Gallery, her eyes remained fixed on the floors, and she did not look at the pictures.
"My, how these here floors must make someone's arms ache,"
she said.
"It would kill me to scrub 'em entirely."
She was so overwhelmed by the amount of hard manual labour those floors represented that the pictures failed to attract her notice. When she was asked at the end of the day what had pleased her most, she said,
"I like the museum best, the one your friend lives in."
This was the drawing room of a lady in Chelsea, where she had tea. She talked still of that museum to her brothers and sisters, also of the floors at the National Gallery. Her mother pulled her right arm out of its socket in a drunken fit when she was an infant. Consequently, she finds scrubbing a painful occupation, even in the small abode of her mistress. One step in the right direction for slaveys would be to affiliate all the board schools with the maids, as most of the pauper schools are affiliated. Each schoolmistress should send a list of girls leaving school to the branch of the association in her district. Then the girls would be visited before they have time to drift into daymaids, to become hands in factories and shops, or to begin the 101 small occupations which lead to nothing. A girl who applies for a place on her own account has a poor chance in service. She needs clothes and a character.
"The chap I keep company with will speak up for me,"
a girl told a commissioner the other day. She was quite surprised to hear that this was not likely to win her a place with an ordinary mistress. Many mothers, however, like to keep their girls at home for a year or two before letting them into service. Such people think, if I've got a daughter, I may as well get the benefit. They say that the school board is hard on mothers, and directly the girls are old enough to leave school, they make them into home drudges. But the girls often rebel against this, and sometimes give the mothers notice, or they get into bad company, and the mothers think that they would be safer in service. The mothers then take their girls to the maids, if they know of it, and ask the ladies to find their daughters places. Of course, the girls who pass straight from school into service make the best servants. London girls of the lowest class have a strong prejudice against domestic service. Mothers are, as a rule, glad to see their girls in a tidy little place. They realize that good food is necessary for a girl while she is growing, and that street life is very pernicious. But the girls often prefer to live at home, even if it means drudgery that keeps them occupied from morning till night, blows, and drunken parents. The routine of service tries them very much, and they miss the companionship of school friends, brothers and sisters. They complain of lonesomeness. A girl was visited lately by our commissioners who had run away from her first place and entered a factory. When asked why she had done this, she said,
"Well, Missus always sat in the parlour, and I always sat in the kitchen, and I felt lonesome. Then Missus used to go out at night and leave me alone in the house, and I got scared and runned away. I won't go back," she added. "No, not for nobody."
Girls of this class are accustomed to live in 1 or 2 rooms with father, mother, brothers and sisters. So when they suddenly find themselves in a strange place at night, alone, in the dark, they become nervous. And if the mistress places an impassable barrier between the parlour and the kitchen, the child servant mopes, gives notice, or runs away, unless she has the true soul of a slavey. Pauper girls make, as a rule, very good servants. Their spirit is broken by long and severe discipline before they leave the workhouse. They seldom complain of anything. But the girl who has tasted the sweets of liberty is apt to run away. If she becomes a slavey, it is not the work she minds, so much as the lonesomeness. The girl who was placed 6 months ago in the house of a major in Kensington is a fair type of the ordinary slavey. Her father rents 2 cellars near Lisson Grove. He is out of work, and only able to scrape along with the assistance of his wife, who is a charwoman. He has 6 children. The eldest girl works in a factory, and earns 4 shillings and 6 per week. Sarah is nearly 15, but looks like a child of 12, because she is small and thin, the result of constant starving. Her father is a very respectable man, although out of work, having been employed in a shop for many years. He now does odd jobs and runs errands. He was very anxious to find Sarah a tidy little place, and delighted that she should go to service. The day on which this was arranged, the mother lay in a bed with the 2 youngest children because her clothes were in the pawn shop. The father had applied for relief to the parish, so money was given to buy Sarah some clothes, and the girl was transported from her wretched home to the house in Kensington. At first she was delighted with everything. She worked hard and tried to give satisfaction. The father called and seemed pleased to see the child so happy, but from the first she complained of lonesomeness. Then she would not answer the back door bell after dark, or sleep by herself. She cried when the cook left her alone in the kitchen. Then she began to mope, and said that she wanted her brothers and sisters, and that she was sure her mother was ill, and that she felt ill herself. She begged for pocket money, saying that her mother had given her a few pence on a Saturday night. She asked to go out by herself, instead of with another servant. Last of all she ran away, having received a shilling from someone in the house, and permission from the cook to fetch a stamp. She preferred her wretched home, in which she had not enough to eat, to the house in Kensington, and now works 10 hours a day in a factory, and gets 2 shillings and 6 a week. She received the kindest treatment, and her life in the house of the major was very different to that of most slaveys. But she was homesick. Imagine the lives of pauper servants, who have no homes, and then think of the little Mary, Jane, or Susan, to whom the terrors of the night season come again and again, as they lie awake in the garret or mope in the kitchen. These children are made of flesh and blood, although they are servants. There is no difficulty in persuading London girls to go out as day maids, namely, from 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock at night. Then they sleep at home. They are not separated from their brothers and sisters. If a girl is asked, after she leaves school, "What would you like to do?" she generally says, "Please, I'd like to mind a baby." Many girls act as nurses to the children of neighbours, or to small shopkeepers, and earn about 2 shillings and 6 a week. Sometimes dinner is included, but generally the girl only receives her tea from the family, Many girls in the East End are employed by well-to-do Jewish families and pass from house to house, receiving pence and scraps in return for scrubbing and washing up. The MABYS sets its face against day servants, for they are out late at night and under the charge of neither mother nor mistress. But the girls enjoy the position of semi-independence, and it is remarkable to witness how different the manner of a slavey is to that of a day servant. The latter is much the most independent. Slaveys receive from £5 to £7 a year as wages. Out of this, they have to buy clothes, boots and shoes, and to provide for a variety of small expenses. Girls in lodging houses do not receive so much, for they are supposed to have perquisites. It is a commonly understood thing among Irish servants that if their wages are not what they consider sufficient, pilfering has the blessing of the priest, or at any rate he winks at it. The same idea seems to exist in the minds of most landladies. Of course there are many exceptions, but that the ordinary landlady is a parasite who expects her lodgers to keep her in food and raiment, and to pay her rent, and this is well known to the public. Thus she helps herself to the lodger's tea and sugar. She takes a little bit of his butter, she shares his bread, and she lets the cat eat his cold mutton. She charges for his coal 3 times as much as she pays herself, and if he does not complain, she calls him quite the gentleman. Thus he hears his landlady say to the slavey, "Susan, bring down Mister's tea caddy." And if he ventures to remonstrate, Susan says, "Missus didn't know as you were in the house, sir." For the sake of peace and a quiet life, he allows his landlady to fleece him, and in time he becomes so abject that he is afraid to give notice. No wonder that he feels for the slavey. He hears the landlady scolding Susan, and afterwards he gives Susan 6pence. Much of his comfort depends on the little maid-servant. She cleans his boots and brings him hot water. She answers his bell and prepares his breakfast. Her dirty face and draggled dress seem to be part and parcel of his cheap lodgings. Her very curl papers are familiar, also her dirty apron. Only she is for ever changing. It is always the same tale. "I can't put up with the missus." Then another girl takes her place, and the other girl gives notice. A commissioner visited a slavey in a large lodging house near the city, in which there are 30 lodgers, including clerks, who earn £2 a week. This child, aged 14, does the whole of the work with the assistance of an old half-daft man who came to the house as a lodger, and stayed on to give a hand whenever he was wanted. The girl sleeps in the kitchen, which is downstairs. Her bed is kept in the kitchen cupboard. She gets up at 5 o'clock and slaves all day long for the lodgers. She cleans and dusts, she carries up water, she helps cook the dinner, she answers the bells, she never sits down except for meals. She gets her tea standing. She has no idea who she is, or where she comes from, only a vague recollection of parents down in the country who gave her to an aunt in London. She believes that she belongs body and soul to the missus, who also seems to look upon the child as her personal property. She has only one pleasure in life, namely a white cat who lives with her in the kitchen and sleeps on her bed at night. The missus does the shopping, so the girl drudges all day in the lodgers' rooms. She works from top to bottom and bottom to top, and then she begins again from the beginning. Another girl was visited in Chelsea who lives in the family of a comic actor. This girl has charge of 3 children. Her mistress complains that she falls asleep while she is dressing, and the girl says that this comes to pass because the baby is teething. She is growing fast, and the heavy baby tries her strength. She must wash and dress all of the children and get breakfast with the baby in her arms. She calls the baby a comical little customer and seems fond of the child, although he keeps her awake at night. She has a sweetheart whose mother is very kind to her, and to this woman's house she goes once a month. For these Sundays she treasures up her money in order to make a smart appearance. Her mistress is very kind, but slipshod, and apt to leave everything to the servant. It is useless to multiply cases. Everyone knows what the life of a slavey is, for fiction and farce have made her famous. The fathers of slaveys are generally labourers or mechanics. One of the secretaries of the maids asserts that the girls who do best are the daughters of men who work in large London breweries. Such men are well paid and keep their places. If a father has worked for some years in the same place, we can always recommend the girl. We are pretty sure that she will turn out well, the same lady told our commissioner. No doubt the happiest slaveys are those who work for people with whom they eat their dinner, by whom they are treated as one of the family. Those who suffer most are girls kept at their distance by mistresses who complain that slaveys do not see the difference between themselves and a lady. Midway between these come the lodging-house slaveys. The lives of all these girls are dull and hard, unless they happen to have an exceptionally kind mistress, or to come under the notice of a lady visitor from the maids, or an associate of the Girls' Friendly Society. Some are sent to Sunday schools, but mistresses think, as a rule, that girls make undesirable acquaintance in such places, and prefer to take them to church on Sunday evening, when their work is finished. Mistresses say that a visit home will upset a slavey for weeks, and that she never settles into a place if her parents are allowed to pay her visits. There are no clubs for slaveys, no rooms in which they can meet for games and music. Working girls of all sorts have clubs in London, but these girls have nothing to break the monotony of their lives except a monthly outing. Mr. Ruskin says that a nation is in a bad way when its girls and young women are sad. If he could glance into the many suburban villas in which slaveys sit alone in the kitchen, he would think the case of London hopeless. The pauper girls who have left the workhouse, the girls whose homes are far away, may be found there by hundreds, depressed and lonely.